Hello, welcome to our Bible studies. We're looking in Psalms, or on Psalm 11. So, yeah, thank you for the feedback. And I know there's one or two people that have let me keep up to date with what's going on. So I appreciate that, and hopefully it helps you in your day-to-day walk with God. Today we're going to be looking at Psalm 11, and the heading in Psalm 11 is a real help in what we're going to look at. And then I want to unpack a little bit about how we respond, and how sometimes circumstances or things that happen give us that opportunity to make adjustments. So in Psalm 11 here, in the Passion Translation, it says the song of the steadfast. Now, when I read that on its own, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to be. I want to be one of those people that is steadfast through, all sorts of different life circumstances. So this is a psalm that David has written. Remember, we mentioned this before, I think, where it talks about the director of worship or songwriting, and the translation in the Passion says, "For the pure and shining one" by King David. And it's an interesting psalm, and I want to pick up the first little bit of it. It says, "Lord, don't you hear what my well-meaning friends keep saying to me? Run away while you can. Fly away like a bird to hide in the mountains for safety, for my enemies have prepared to trap me." Now the NIV version says, "In the Lord I take refuge. How then can you say to me, flee like a bird to your mountain?" So I was just to get hold of that. And so on one hand, David is writing and he's saying, it's in the Lord I trust. I position myself. My position is that you're my refuge. You're the place that, and the one that keeps me safe. See, you've got that on one side, and the tension is caused because the other side, he's got, as he calls them, well-meaning friends who are saying, run away, get away while you can. So there's your tension. I'm trusting in God. I'm pulled. On the other side, I'm pulled to a different action from my belief. Now, I think it's an important thing just to understand, and to understand how we work and how we respond to this, because it's something I think that comes up in different ways all the time in our life in God, where we have a belief system, we have a way, something that we hold in our core, and yet it gets challenged. Now, the voice that challenges it, in this case it's the well-meaning friend from the outside, but sometimes it can be our own internal voice that somehow we want to do something and live in a way that's contrary to what we believe. And the question is, how are we going to deal with it? So to David, his friends are saying it's time to flee. It's, can't you see they're going to trap you? You better go and hide. And David's going, well, that's not the way it is. That's not the way I want to live my life. And I wouldn't be too worried when our internal when our internal belief system is being challenged either by our internal voice or by external. That's not a problem, the challenge. The issue comes when on how we deal with that challenge. So, you say, well, the Lord's my refuge. The internal voice or everything else is telling me to run. Now, I need to process that. I need to get hold of it. And actually, I think in God, it's an opportunity to test and establish our belief system. And that as we examine that and don't avoid it, we can actually strengthen our internal belief system, because we look and we go, well, this is what I believe, that the Lord is my refuge. the circumstances I'm facing are challenging, difficult, even overwhelming, the voice that's internal or external says I now need to behave in this way. But to behave in that way is against the very thing I believe, which is that God's my refuge. So what David is wrestling with here is that God's his refuge, but I better do something and be my own refuge. Now, let's not get down the line of doing things that are stupid, because that might be the right thing to do, is to move and shift in David's case. But he's examining it. So as we goes on, David sort of brings out to God. He's expressing how he feels about these people that they're being unrighteous, they're living in unrighteous ways. But he says this: don't they know, Lord, that I have made you my only hiding place? Don't they know that I will always trust in you? So David is rehearsing and establishing in a stronger way, on the inside what he believes. And then he goes on, and verse 5, and again it's from the Passion Translation, he's examining who God is and what God is like in these situations. He says, yet the Eternal One is never shaken. He is still found in his temples of holiness, reigning as Lord and King over all. He closely watches everything that happens. Now, the NIV version says this. It says, the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord is on his holy throne. He observes everyone on earth. His eyes examine them. And in this journey of David's not just examining, you're my refuge. He's actually going a step further. He's saying, God, you're my refuge, but this is what you're like. You're not going to be shaken by what people say. You're not going to shift from your place of holiness, your place of rule and reign, and you're not, if you like, God and who he is isn't going to become distorted by the actions of men. But yes, he sees and he examines, and it says, for his heavenly rule will prevail over all. He will test both the righteous and the wicked, exposing their heart. And I think the thing for us to grasp hold of here is God who, if you like, takes the responsibility of dealing with some of this stuff. It's very easy in our own thinking, when we've been wrongly treated in some way, to almost go on a crusade to be proved right. But that's not it in God. Our first place is, we look to him, we find our place of security in him. And and he finishes here in the last bit in verse 7, it says, the righteous Lord loves what is right and just. And every godly one will come into his presence and gaze in his face. That's what's available to us. Sometimes the noise of life, the things that would pull us to the left or right, we need to put aside and come into that place, that wonderful place of worship, and gaze on him. Gazing on him, it really means looking to see who he is. It's like that little baby, newborn baby. It starts to gaze towards its mother, to know and get to know her, who she is. Now, as I draw this in, this is about one internal voice, but what I want to just widen it, that it might be you have an internal voice or things that have been said that's a conflict with a belief in who God is. And this is the way to resolve it, not to avoid it, but to examine it in light of who God is. And it will not just strengthen your internal world, it'll bring greater freedom in your internal world. Bless you. Thank you for being with me. We'll continue next Tuesday. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye for now.